All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of Fraud Fact Friday live. I have Todd Wolf here with me today. Hi, Todd.
Hey, David, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. How are you? Thanks for
I'm good.
taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I just pulled up the screen here to see people jumping on. If people have comments, let us know where you're tuning in from. We're happy to have any questions that you may have. Dr. Sylvia Schaefer says, hey. Not sure if you know Dr. Sylvia Schaefer, but she says, hey, and we say hello back.
Hello.
Thanks for joining. And so anybody else, comment, let us know where you're viewing from. Like I said, Todd Wolf is joining me. We're going to be talking, vehicle fraud, fraud in the vehicle space, automobile industry as a main talking point, but we're going to be kind of just going back and forth on some different fraud topics in general. I'm looking forward to get started. Todd's got 23 years under his belt with the California Highway Patrol. Currently senior fraud investigator, fraud analyst, and trainer roles are also something he has under his belt. So a lot of experience joining us today. And again, I appreciate it. I am going to put you through the icebreaker round. I know you've been on a couple of the broadcasts. Just as people join. And hi, Joe Stevenson. Nice to see you on the broadcast. So I'm going to put you through the icebreaker round. We're just going to do quick 5 either or questions, 30 seconds. Don't think too much. We'll get started. Here's my 30-second clock, by the way. It's very unofficial.
All righty. It works for me.
All right. Ready?
Go for it.
Okay. Pizza or burger?
Burger.
If you could time travel, future or past?
Past.
Hot or iced coffee?
Hot.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Which is more important if I were to get pulled over? Which should I have, license or registration?
License.
Either or. Okay, good. That was good. Thanks. We made it in the time.
All right. Good. I passed.
And you're in Texas, right?
I am in Texas, yes.
So you said summer, but I saw my brother lives in Texas. Did it snow where you're at in Texas?
It is snowing, or it snowed in north of me.
Okay.
It snowed. I don't know what it
Pretty
is.
unusual.
They estimated about 3 to 6 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Here, yesterday was 23 in the morning. So we got a lot of frost, a lot of black ice. If you're not paying attention.
I'm a summer fan myself, but I also live in a cold region. But Texas, I'm sure the cold is a bit welcomed sometimes.
It's welcome after 100+ degree humidity summer.
Right. And then license or registration. So always have your license, because I know when you get pulled over. I was pulled over once in my life, I have to say. License and registration, and I had both, but just wanted to check to see which one was more important.
License is always more important. You can always look it up, but license is always more important.
All right. Yeah, so that's the little icebreaker round. Let people have the chance to join. I see several more jumped on. Let us know where you're viewing from. Let us know if you have questions, anything vehicle finance fraud related, or fraud in general. Happy to address them. Hi, Syed Farhan from Westbury, New York. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give you the chance to introduce yourself. Maybe you can talk about how you got involved in the fraud fighting community.
Sure. Well, again, thank you very much for allowing me to join your cast. I appreciate it. So like you said earlier, I retired after 23 years at the California Highway Patrol. And my last 10 years was as a vehicle theft investigator in Los Angeles. Like any other vehicle theft investigator, we go after VIN switches and chop shops and go into, dismantling yards and look for stolen vehicles. Mm-hmm. But one stolen motorcycle took me into a world of fraud that I've never knew existed.
Okay.
It ended up being a 38 car title fraud case. Mm-hmm. And what that did is brought me into the world of the finance community, who now call me all the time.
Okay.
And through my last 10 years or last 8 years of the law enforcement career, I learned about, again, allegations that I never heard of before. Synthetic identity. Everyone's heard of identity theft, but you really didn't have a big role in that, and the title fraud and the subleasing world, and it just evolved. And it evolved so well that when I retired, I was invited to join the private sector in the vehicle finance community to fight fraud and get the message out.
Cool. So maybe we'll get into a little more details on title fraud, what that means as we move on. What is your current role as a fraud fighter and educator right now, more specifically?
Sure. Well, right now I'm a senior fraud investigator for a major bank. And not only that, I'm also with the International Association of Auto Theft Investigators and the International Association of Financial Crime Investigators. And through that, I'm the chair of each one of their auto finance committees and coalitions. And our goal is to change the industry, to fix the industry, to get the word out. The cooperation, collaboration, communication is the most important, because without that, we're just going in a circle that it's going to take us nowhere.
Okay. So the International Association of Auto Theft Investigators, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, again, we're an international organization. It's auto theft investigators, insurance industry, law enforcement from all over the world. Most of our membership is in the United States, but again, we've hit every continent, including we're now getting the Asian community. They're building their own branch right now.
Okay.
And again, we're an organization that has a networking of nearly 4,000 members all over the world. So when we have issues, because again, cars don't, they might be stolen in the United States, but there's a large conglomerate that ships them overseas. So we have that ability. But what it does is it helps us within the law enforcement community or the insurance industry, now even the financial industry, to have that network and communicate within this arena to, again, we collaborate, we communicate, and then with the cooperation to put these fraudsters in jail, stop them, whatever we need to do.
Okay. On the stolen car, I had my car stolen when I was, I don't know, I think it was 17, and my first car, and it was stolen. And I was scrolling my LinkedIn timeline, and I saw a stat that a vehicle in Arizona is stolen every 30 minutes. That's a lot of stolen cars. I mean, it's a huge problem. How much time did you spend? So roughly estimated, how much time of your time on with the California Highway Patrol was spent dealing with these cases?
Well, again, the last 10 years of my career, that's all I worked, is vehicle theft.
Okay.
And although I was in LA County, my cases took me all over California, and then a lot of them took me outside of California, where I had to, again, through that CCC, communicate and cooperate and collaborate with my fellow vehicle theft and auto theft brethren outside of outside of California. Sometimes I had to bring my federal partners in because, again, a lot of cases left California.
Okay.
So again, the last 10 years of my career was all dedicated to the auto theft, vehicle theft world.
Okay. When it comes to buying a car, it's something that pretty much probably everyone watching can relate to. Going through the process, whether you buy a used car, a new car. But what words of caution do you have for people that are looking to buy a car when it comes to vehicle finance fraud?
Be careful with Craigslist ads. Be careful with cars that are parked on the street corner with a for sale sign on it. If it is a vehicle that you're interested in, do your homework. There are a lot of law enforcement agencies out there that will run the VIN for you to start that first layer to see if that vehicle's ever been reported stolen. Carfax, they're another, I think you have to pay a fee to use it if you're just in the private sector. There are some other websites out there that you can put the VIN in there, and they will help you identify if anything's been wrong with it. NICB, the National Crime Insurance Bureau, has a VIN Assist free tab, so you can even run to see if that VIN exists, period. It's not going to give you a registration history. It's just going to tell you if that's a good VIN that was issued by a manufacturer. And always have a third party help you out. Don't just, because again, fraudsters are looking for that vulnerable person. If you bring a third party in that doesn't have any stake in the game other than helping you out, they might be able to identify. They're there with a level head, and they might be able to identify if somebody's trying to defraud you.
You mean by third party, like an independent mechanic, or just a family member in general?
It could be a mechanic.
Anybody.
It could be anybody. Anybody who doesn't really have much stake in it, other than making sure this is the proper deal for you in that car. There's nothing wrong with that car, because there's too many individuals out there who, they use a car to defraud.
Yeah. So what would be then? So you mentioned at the beginning title fraud. Maybe taking a step back, what is vehicle finance fraud in general? Is title fraud a part of it? What kind of things should we be looking out for as far as scams?
Sure. Vehicle finance fraud is the tip of the umbrella, and then it completely branches out. Title fraud is a form of it. So you have the title frauds, you have the synthetic identities, you have the bona fide identity thefts, you have these things called credit bust outs, you have subleasing schemes. What title fraud is basically there's two ways of doing it now, because now it splinters off. Just to keep it simple, the most common one is the abuse by rogue body shops, mechanics, tow yards who claim that they've had this vehicle for 60 days and they put $100,000 worth of repairs on this car, and if you want it back, you need to pay us all this money. And they're called abandoned lien schemes. And then they also, what they do is they might send an empty envelope to a finance company to claim that, hey, it's all done certified, so somebody signs this letter, but when they open it up, it's empty. Well, the fraudster is sending that paperwork to the DMV saying, hey, they signed for this letter, and they've never responded to it. So that's what title fraud is. And I just don't have time on this call because it's such a vast topic.
Okay. So what are some other types of fraud in the vehicle space? I saw one time, or in one of your posts, you mentioned vehicle theft by fraud versus carjacking and hot wiring. I mean, how would you compare those two?
Well, you got to take it back in the day before we really had a lot of technology. Cars are stolen traditionally, right? You broke into a car, you had a screwdriver or Slim Jim, and you stole the car and drove off.
That's how it happened with me. Mine was hot wired.
Right. Carjacking, somebody unfortunately puts a weapon up to your head and demands the car, and you give it up. That hasn't gone away. It's still there. But those are cars that go in the vehicle stolen system called NCIC almost immediately, right? So it's already, that car now is really no good to a car thief because the car's hot.
Yeah.
But when it comes to vehicle finance fraud, you steal a car from a dealership with fraud, it could take weeks, months, sometimes a year before anyone even knows that car has been stolen by fraud. And what can happen in that time, right? It's been resold. The title fraud issue we just talked about, has it been exported? No one knows what happened to that car. So somewhere somebody's made so much extra money, free and clear. And then the sad part is a lot of the vehicle finance fraud, unfortunately, in this world right now, it's treated more of a civil matter, and fraudsters know that, and they challenge people. Go ahead to law enforcement. Go tell them the story. Okay, because they're not concerned about it, and that's where my role, even through your venue right here, is to get the word out and get that message out that vehicle finance fraud is very real. Yeah, it is criminal, but it takes time for everyone to look at the large picture versus narrow-minded. Yeah.
Okay. And then that comes back into your cooperation and communication and collaboration message.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I've seen you also put up several posts on LinkedIn that are focused on the relationship between auto theft, auto crime, and financial crime. Can you elaborate on that relationship a little bit?
Sure. If you're a bad guy, you need a car, right? You're not going to take the metro bus. You're not going to take the train. You're not going to walk. You might ride a bike, but you need a car. And if you are going to commit a crime, what's the best way to do it? Use a car that's not associated to you at all. So it's either stolen by fraud, right? Or you might have stole the traditional way just to get that car. So people need to recognize that just because it's auto fraud or a stolen vehicle, there might be so many different other crimes that are involved in that car. I mean, I've arrested people for auto finance fraud who were involved in the narcotics industry, or they are involved in the identity theft credit skimming industry. If you just think about it, the first World Trade Center bombing was a stolen vehicle. It was the van or the truck, I believe. Everyone needs a vehicle and to commit other crimes. So they all correlate, and that's where we all have to work together. So it's just not, the vehicle finance investigator detective. It's the patrol guy, it's the narcotics guy, it's the homicide, it's the private sector. Everyone's got to work together to fight this industry.
Okay. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but a couple months back, you posted a video stating you'd be releasing a series of videos about fraud allegations in the auto industry. And this is something that you got a really good response on. Video content is the future way to get the messages out. Can we expect more video content from you moving forward as far as different fraud strategies that people should keep an eye out for and things like that when it comes to the auto industry?
Yeah, most definitely. Again, I put it out that it would be weeks, and unfortunately it's taken a little longer because I have another side project with IATI that I've been working on for the last year plus, and we're towards the tail end of that. And once I have that extra free time outside of the family life and the work life, I'm going to get these videos out. Like you said, again, in this day and age, and we've had this conversation, that this is the arena that we get our voices out, is through these videos. It's easier for people to grasp listening to my voice and seeing the passion versus reading black and white paper and not really clearly understanding it. So long story short, yes, there'll be videos coming very shortly. My first one will be about synthetic identity. I will tell you that. So that will be the very first one.
Cool. We'll definitely keep our eyes out for those. We're still at the beginning of the year, so I like to kind of have an outlook. I asked my guest last week about it, but you're on top of a lot of the fraud trends. You're out there, you're in the field. What would you think would be the top 3 schemes, let's say an everyday consumer should be aware of in 2020? For me, for example, it's even looking at, and by the way, before I get into that, I want to say hi to Melly, Michael, and Stanley, who also joined and commented. Thank you for commenting. Any of the other ones out there, let us know if you have any questions. Sometimes I forget to address the audience. I get involved in our conversation, but we do have some people watching, and thank you. So let us know if you have any questions. But like for me, I heard on the radio 2 days ago here in Aachen, Germany, hey, we just had several cases here in the region of fake bills, fake notes, euros. And I was like, man, I thought that was like a really outdated thing. But 2 people were caught in stores trying to pay with fake bills. So it's, for me personally, I'm trying to sell something right now on it's called eBay Kleinanzeigen, which is like a Craigslist in Germany. And I'm trying to sell something right now on it, and I took it off. I was like, okay, so there's people running around with fake cash right now. I don't need them at my doorstep trying to buy this item that I'm trying to sell. So I took it off, and I'm going to sell it on the normal eBay. And I know there's risks associated with that as well, but it kind of got my attention. So those are the kind of things I keep my eye out for, everyday cases. What would you say in 2020 the consumers should be looking out for? It can be vehicle related, but also not. What would be your top 3?
Sure. Well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is just what you just mentioned real quick, is if you are going to sell something privately, never have them come to your home.
Yeah.
Right. You always want to meet them in a neutral location that's populated with
gas
people
station or something
to help protect to protect yourself, because you don't want to invite bad people to your home to say, this is where I live. And if they find you on the internet and know, hey, David works between this hour and this hour, and that house is abandoned. Now we know where he lives, and we know he sold us this cool stuff. Maybe he has some other stuff. So that's a side note. Some of the biggest things in this world right now that are going on involve our life, right? So you got the synthetic identity. And again, I don't have a lot of time to discuss it, but it has to do with social security numbers. Protect yourself. All consumers need to protect themselves and take responsibility for protecting their social security number. It's not the sole thing that is needed to get credit, but it's the most recognizable number that we have in the United States, and it's compromised continuously.
Yeah.
So consumers need to go on to the 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and they need to freeze their credit. Stop the credit. Don't allow somebody to open credit in your name or using your identity. That's the biggest push I can put there right now. I know earlier, you sent me some of the questions that we were talking about, and some of the fraud schemes. Synthetic identity by far is probably the most prolific fraud we're seeing out there in the industry, period. The auto industry, the banking industry, the mortgage industry, that's what it is. But some of the new frauds that we're seeing right now, because of some loopholes in some of the laws, it's called the credit fraud, where consumers through some of the gray areas of laws are able to file papers with the FTC, which claiming they're victims of identity theft. And what they're doing is the trade lines are then removing they're not the trade lines. The credit bureaus are removing the trade lines, which are basically the credit. So if you go to ABC Bank and that's ABC Bank and you owe this much money and your payment history and everything, that's gone. It's wiped out. It's no longer on your credit report. So what's going on now is once their credit's clean, now they're going back to the creditors and applying for new credit. They've already defaulted before, being either irresponsible credit people or they're the fraudsters. And it's just, again, it's another revolving door. There's an estimated that those who do it, 40% reoffend. So that's 40% of the banking industry where money is being taken, money or vehicles are being stolen again and again. Those stolen cars, they're going somewhere. They're going to the innocent consumer who has, that cash that they've been saving up in their mattress, and now they finally have enough money to go buy that $10,000 2020 Camaro, right? Or those vehicles are going overseas.
Yeah.
So those are the big things. And like we said, that the most important part of this is we as consumers have to slow down and evaluate the whole picture. I tell this to dealerships when I go and train dealerships. I tell this to the credit analysts who are reviewing the applications. I tell this to law enforcement. Everyone has to slow down. We're in a fast-paced industry now.
Yeah.
We have computers do everything for us. AI does everything, right? But AI is not everything. We have to have 4 eyes. We have to have human intelligence on all this stuff to slow down and take a level head and evaluate everything as a whole versus allowing technology to dictate our decisions.
Yeah. So slow down.
Slow down is the key word. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Those are some great tips to start the year that we should keep an eye out for. Where are you going to be? Are you going to be out and about at any events coming up, holding any trainings?
Yeah, we're starting again. It's in our industry. The conference season is coming up soon. I think the first one I will be at this year will be in April 14th and 15th. It is the NICB conference. It's a Vehicle Finance and Fraud conference. It's primarily for law enforcement in the private sector. Not everybody can just go to it, but it's where we are getting the word out. We have the IATI conference coming up in Chicago. The IOSI conference is coming in Boston this year. So we'll be myself and colleagues from the Auto Finance Coalition will be getting the word out and attending all these conferences and putting it out. Again, what we're doing is putting some white papers out to the different industry partners out there to help change the industry. So hopefully we have, I think 2 white papers are coming out sometime soon, hopefully within late spring.
Okay.
They'll be published, and one will be for title fraud that's being worked on right now, and the other one
we'll
is
get all those details then in that paper.
Hopefully.
Perfect.
And then the credit washing that we just talked about and synthetic identity, some changes need to be made in regulatory laws and policies and procedures. So hopefully that white paper comes out, and the team that's creating these they're doing a great job doing it. And hopefully they work. Hope people listen.
So before we go, I know we're getting short on time. I recently saw a post, you mentioned the NICB, from NICB, where they had people who had been defrauded that kind of fell for a scheme, sharing their stories. And I thought that was really cool because that's a hard thing to do. So do you have any maybe personal stories that you could share that could help people learn? Like from either you've been defrauded, someone you know, any stories?
Well, I've not been defrauded, knock on wood, that I'm aware of. There's story. I mean, again, because my last 8 years of my career was talking to victims of fraud.
Yeah.
And then even today, there are stories. Again, the key word is slow down. Don't be so gullible, because there's people out there. There's these con men. I'm going to even back up. I'm going to go. This is the way I present in my class, and I know we're short on time. Is when I do my presentations, my first couple slides are of a guy named Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
And Bernie Madoff was a very highly respected individual who was in the business of investing, right? Mm. And he conned people out of $67 billion to invest, right? And for whatever reason, his rate of return was great, or his reputation was great. Everyone believed everything he had to say.
Yeah.
And everyone voluntarily gave up all their money and all their life savings, and they basically lost it all.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there were a lot of red flags, but there had to have been some type of red flags, right? Maybe the rate of return was so much higher than
too good to be
every
true.
every other investor that, hey, why has he got better returns than this other company? Something's not right. Slow down. Ask questions. Let's again, going back to the key word, slow down. That will that will reduce your risk of being victimized by fraud.
All right. I bet you said that a lot as a highway patrol officer as well. Slow down. Kind of carries over, right?
Yeah, I had that conversation with many people as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Sign here. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. We didn't get any questions, at least that I saw here, come through from the audience, but it was very nice to see people joining in and saying hello, at least. Thank you for your time. It was very informative, and I'm sure we'll be in touch on LinkedIn as the time moves on, and we'll be keeping an eye out for your video series as well, and I'll help you push that as well once that comes out, because you'll be handling some interesting topics. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it, and everyone in the audience, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Well, talk to you soon. Have a good weekend.
David. You the same. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.